Sacré, sacred. Sacred is the English word that comes closest to sacré. Apparently, in English, there used to be a verb, a full verb, to sacre or sacra. I don't know how it was pronounced in Middle English, but it's lost. And now the only word in English that's used from that origin or from that original word is sacred. So it's the past participle. I guess it's the adjective form of this word. And this is used a lot in Quebec. It's used to describe the curse words. So let's talk about it. Let's see something like this. We're back, so it's time for beer. Du Moulin, it's a French beer, and it's brewed in Joliette. So let's have a taste of this wonderful beer. Again, so this is a variation. I hope this topic will make sense. So if you're interested in Quebec curse words, we're going to explore them in just a bit. So okay, let's start with the beer, Du Moulin. So let me pour this. It's an ale, and it's pretty wonderful. Look at that. Oh, it's a Pilsner ale, and it looks very thin. It looks very clear. So I guess it's French beer, and the French, I guess they also do beer. They're better known for their wines. But cheers. And it's not bad. It's okay. And I've already finished tasting what I had to taste. So it's a very so no aftertaste is this beer. So maybe this is a beer for amateurs. Maybe this is a beer for people who are just starting out with this. Okay. Let's get to talk about the main topic. So sacred. So the swear words have to do with sacredness. I realize now, comparing swear words in English, swear words in French in France, swear words in Quebec, and in other countries, that different words are used to describe the phenomenon of swearing. So you may have in English things like a word like curse, to curse. Well, to curse is kind of like a magical imprecation. You imagine like a witch, giving a curse to some, poor girl or some poor prince who's going to be turned into a toad or something like that. So that's a curse. So that's where that comes from. You also have words like profanity. Profanity, I guess, is what is profane? When it's profane, I guess it's non-religious. So the implication of that word is that this swearing is done in outside of the church. Swearing. Then that's a different approach to these words, these taboo words. Swearing, I guess, is to call on God as a witness. I guess that's what's going on there. I should have maybe started out with a bit of a warning. We're going to talk about religion, and we're going to talk about swearing and blasphemy. So if you're not into that, just stop listening right now because you may be offended. So this is not for the people who are offended or by these things. So sacred. So in Quebec French, and it's a Quebec French word, and it's not even in the dictionaries, even though it's been used for hundreds of years. Sacrer is a verb, to sacre. I had to repeat that. So sacred. So what's the origin of that word? So I'm trying to get to that because it has to do with the strategy and what's going on with these strange Quebec swear words. Um, to sacre, Middle English sense, means to consecrate, to make official, to make religiously official, official in a religious sense. It's a very old sense, and it harks back to the Catholic Church, where you have people like the Pope, who is sacred and needs to be officialized as such. And the Pope will officialize, or the representative of the Catholic Church will go and officialize this king, or this marriage, or this birth as being official and legit. So what's added exactly? What's this certification? What's this consecration? What's going on there? So it goes back to a very old idea of divinity, of having this link to God. So the Pope has this special relationship with God, and I know I'm going to get into trouble if I try to specify it. Listen, I'm trying to talk about swearing and swear words in Quebec, and I don't want to go into this the history, this religious history, and to the details. And I know that some people really love that and really go into that. And I'm trying to give just a general outlook. But the general outlook basically is that power is divine, that the true source of power comes from God, which is something that around the late 16th century, 1500, early 17th century, is suddenly in doubt, suddenly is rethought, or is questioned. Why is this priest? Why is my local priest? Where does he get his authority to tell me what to do? So that's kind of what's going on. Where does he get his authority? Well, he gets it from the higher ups and the higher ups until you get to the Pope, and then it comes from God. So that clearly, to make it really clear, is in opposition to democracy, is in opposition to having a group of people deciding things for themselves. And so this is very much a concept related to the Reformation. It's very much a concept related to the time period when in France, people are losing confidence in their local priest and in the Pope and in the Catholic Church as a whole. I'm not going into the justifications of that, but I think the justifications, often we talk about because they were selling, I'm going to get into all these different details, but at the time the church was maybe doing something to exacerbate this loss, or this loss of confidence, people doubting the Catholic Church by selling, and I'm not going to find the word. I will not find the word. I know you know the word, but I can't find it. And so I'm going to have another glass of beer, another drink. So if you stole an egg and you felt bad about it, you would go to see the priest, and the priest would say, well, okay, an egg, so that's worth $5. Give me $5 and I will make things okay with you and God. And so this paraphrase, this is starting to be in doubt. People are thinking, who is this priest to let me off the hook, or to let the thief or the killer or worse letting them off the hook? How can this person have this authority? So this is questioned, and it's questioned because in the late 1600s, people are starting to think I guess it's a fashion, it's a world, it's a European trend of thinking analytically and thinking logically and moving away from what used to be done in the Middle Ages. And there are some new texts coming in, new versions, new versions of old texts that they were familiar with. Of course, the Bible. So there's new versions of the Bible that are older than the ones that they were using, and then they're just like comparing the different versions, and they're like saying, okay, hold on, we have to rethink this. And as they're thinking, as they're reading, people are losing faith in this sacredness concept. It's seen as medieval, it's seen as something that is a lie, and they feel very strongly about this. So strangely, the swear words in Quebec are defined by using a word that has another meaning, of course. Sacred has another meaning, but in its use in Quebec French, it's really specific, and it represents these swear words, and it says about them that. What does it say about them? It says basically that they are the reverse of a consecration. If you look at usage, for example, in Quebec, we'll say something like "je m'en sacre," which means something like "I don't care." "Je m'en sacre" is a little bit like the French from France, "je m'en fiche." So I give this no importance. I don't care about this. Je m'en sacre. I do not give any importance, any validation, any importance. What you're saying is that you're taking whatever you're talking about and moving it down. You're saying that this is not what it appears to be. This is much less than what it appears to be. You can also say sacrer un coup de poing. Sacrer un coup de poing means to punch, to give a punch, but it's not give. It's really, there's a fist, and it's there to hit, but to break, to make a dent in something, to degrade, to alter in a lower way. So what we're saying is that swearing in French in Quebec, these words are what they're doing. When we name something, that word is lowering, is not just insulting, but debasing, demystifying, the sacredness aspect, we're breaking it. That's what it's saying. And that's very curious, because it's awfully strange when you think that most people will tell you French Canadians traditionally were / are partly, in various ways, Catholic, very Catholic, and they're supposed to be very Catholic. But the idea of the swear words used in Quebec are not very Catholic at all. They're actually quite the opposite. They seem to be attacking, to be trying to dismantle, to take away the sacredness of objects and things that are considered sacred in the Catholic Church. So that's why some people, and when I say some people, I read a blog, and I found this one person actually say, "Oh, Quebec swear words are of Protestant origin, and hence they are English," which is which is hard to believe, and actually, there's a little bit of truth to that. And one of the reasons why I wanted to, well, not just do this video, I've been talking about this topic for, my gosh, maybe 10 years, maybe more. But when I saw other people picking up on that aspect of the situation, I thought, I better weigh in. So I'm not saying I'm right, but I do want to weigh in on this topic. The sacredness. So where does that come from, especially in France? Because England is special. Historically, England is special. There's Henry VIII, who's going to separate from the Catholic Church and then create a church which is actually very similar to the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the Church of England. When I say similar, it's similar to the Catholic Church in as much as it's not a Protestant church per se. And the main idea behind this is, again, this idea of sacredness and what is sacred, and the authority of the Pope and of a person being able to give sacredness to different objects, or to embody this sacredness. So this, in the Protestant mindset of the Reform or Reformation, early 16th century, this doesn't work. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back, way back to late antiquity. So around 600 AD, 400, 500, 300 to 600 AD, late antiquity. What's going on in France, in more of the southern part, actually? You have the Gallo-Romans and old families with wealth, and they're following the traditions of Rome. But at the same time, you have these incoming Germanic tribes. One of the Germanic tribes, of course, were the Franks. So the Franks will come to France, and the Angles will go to England. And what's the difference between the Franks and the Angles and the Saxons? Well, not so much originally. If you go back in time, their language was probably, they could actually communicate in the same language. They had similar cultures. But basically what happened to the Franks, they were assimilated, whereas in England, the Angles and the Saxons dominated in England. So that's a fascinating little bit of history, and nice thing to compare and certainly study. When the Franks are coming into France, they're coming into something that already exists. There's a culture, there's a language, and it's Rome. It's not Latin. It's what they call vulgar Latin, which means Latin mixed up with Gaulish, and that's evolved over maybe 500 years. And there's culture, and there's a legal system, and so these newcomers are not at first accepted by the population. And what we need to understand is that it's the population who decides in the end. It's the population. And the population, in order to recognize the legitimacy of these newcomers, these Frankish kings, they accepted that the old Gallo-Roman families that have turned Christian now, and they have bishops, that the bishops and the new coming kings form a partnership. And the partnership is a strange kind of partnership, because of course they're opposing, they're competing for the same things, land, and they're competing for armies and so forth. But they find a way to work things together. Not always well. Some bishops are assassinated, and you get things like that. Some kings are not recognized. They're seen as usurpers. The king needs the bishop to have recognition, and this is and so then the king becomes his power derives, from God, essentially. So it's divine power. And just like Queen Elizabeth has theoretically divine power, and this satisfies the population at the time. So that's why this issue of sacredness is so essential in France. Now, the word, if we go back to the swearing in Quebec French, this word sacré is not used in France in that sense. So this is a development. This is an original development in Quebec. Something happened in Quebec. Something happened in French Canada that made people there use a word in its complete opposite. Use a word of sacredness to talk about, to attack very specifically this link to the divine. It's, as swear words go, it's pretty intellectual. It's pretty out there in terms of the time period. I think it connects well with the time period of people being more and more educated, people being more and more critical, and not wanting, kind of like opposing the Middle Ages that were seen as superstitious and so forth. So that's what this word is, sacred, sacré. Sacré. To sacre in French, in Quebec French, means to swear. It means to, and of course I'm not listing the different swear words, but then when we get to see the actual swear words, it's quite obvious that there's something not Catholic going around. But it's not English. For some reason today, today we tend to see England as Protestant and France as Catholic. At least that's what they say in France. And the story is a little bit more complicated than that. Maybe I can end with just the notion that at the time of Henry VIII was not very enthusiastic about the new Protestant religion. In fact, he made it impossible to read and to sell books and the Bible, because that's what the Protestants would do at first, translate the Bible into the national languages so that everyone could read them. And Henry VIII, of course, stopped that and made that illegal. Whereas François Ier, he was, until 1534, 1535, he was quite enthusiastic about this new, the new change and the new world and new ideas, and he wanted to be seen as an educated and elevated and a sophisticated prince, if you will. So the ideas of the reform were much more prevalent and much more widespread in France at first. In fact, the Bible in French was published a year before England. Now, a year is not so long because ideas travel so quickly. What's interesting with that is that so it's all happening at the same time. My main point here is not to say, this is first, this is second. This is not at all my point. My point is to say that if we tend to think that France, Catholic, and England as Protestant, certainly if I just stereotype it as Protestant, it's a little bit more complicated than that. A lot of things were happening in the early 16th century. And I'm going to stop it right there. I think I've said enough about that. And so we're back with the book. Here's the book. The Size of Nations. Great book. Very interesting book. And I think today, as relevant than ever as a book. What this book talks about. So this is by Alberto Alesina and Enrico Spolaore. Spolaore. Apologies for messing that up. The size of nations. Most people think that the bigger the better, and then so if you have a country that is the biggest country in the world, that means it's better for some reason. Actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that. We could perhaps see the world in a different way, more like teams, competing teams, and with general rules, and then having smaller teams compete. Does a big country will a big country do better than a small country? And here we have the cases of a whole bunch of small countries that do very, very well, very, very well indeed. And why not? What does it, so it really makes you think, what does it matter? Why do we need more territory? The idea of more territory, it goes back to a very old idea, I guess, of farming. So if you're a farmer, the more land you have, the more wheat you have, the more money you have, the richer you are. If you have livestock, if you have 100 livestock, then 100 cows, then you're richer than if you have 10. So that's the logic of that. That's the mentality of that, and it's served us well, I guess, in the last 2,000 years, although or more. Although lots of wars about territory. Lots of bloodshed concerning territory. But if we see things differently, maybe just a very efficient, smaller farm could do as well or better than larger. Anyway, maybe just that size is not the only thing that's important. You can have smaller nations and that do very, very well. So that's the book. That's it for me.